All right, 902. 902, gentlemen. 902. Bottom of the page. Okay, so we finished with the pledges, with the Nedarim and the Shvuos, with the oaths. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemar. God says to Moshe, bottom of 902, Nikom nikamas b'nei Yisrael me'es ha-Midyanim. Avenge the Jewish people from the Midianites, achar te'asef el amecha. And then you will be gathered to your people, then you're going to die. So before anything, the concept of revenge is something that is prohibited by Torah law. It says, lo sikom v'lo sikator. There is a prohibition for a human being to take revenge. And the idea behind not taking revenge, not only you're not allowed to take revenge, you're not even allowed to bear a grudge. That means if somebody, the classic example the Gemara uses is page 902, for anybody who came in. The classic example the Gemara uses, if I come over and I ask to borrow your shovel, and you say no, and then you come to me to borrow my shovel, I'm not allowed to not lend you my shovel simply because I'm taking revenge. No, I'm not going to lend you. You didn't lend me. I'm not going. I may have another reason I don't want to lend you the shovel. You know, it could be I don't want to lend you the shovel because I don't trust you that you'll break it or something. That's something else. But I'm not allowed to refrain from lending it to you simply as an act of revenge. Number one. Number two. If you don't lend me your shovel, and then you come to borrow my shovel, and I say, listen, I'm not like you, I am going to lend you my shovel, then I'm transgressing the prohibition of bearing the grudge. I'm not even allowed to bear a grudge. That's a Torah prohibition. The reason you're not allowed to take revenge, on a human level, you can't take revenge, is because if somebody does something wrong to me, and I go after him for it, what I'm doing is I'm making a statement that this is the reason why you're the reason why I suffered. And you're not the reason why I suffered. You're only an agent for me to suffer. You've been sent by God. And if it wasn't you, it would have been somebody else or something else. And from a human perspective, I'm obligated to believe that whatever happens to me is simply it's a result of a relationship between me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hold all the questions for a few minutes. Hold all the questions. I want to get to a different point. This is just an introduction. So from a human perspective, you're not allowed to take revenge. If somebody harms you, you are allowed to take them to Beis Din. You are allowed to take them to court. That you're allowed to do. You're allowed to get compensation that the Torah allows for. But to take revenge for revenge's sake, you're not allowed to do. However, here God says openly, Nikom nikmas b'nei Yisrael me'es ha-Midyanim. Here's a God command to go and avenge what the Midianites did to the Jewish people. What did the Midianites do to the Jewish people? There should be more chumashim over there. If you want to pass the chumashim to the guys in the back, page 902, page 902, 904. So here, the Midianites had caused the Jewish people to sin. Now, there's a very interesting concept over here. That when somebody causes somebody else to sin, or even somebody, let's say somebody murders, Reuven murders Shimon. Shimon is dead. What good does it do to execute Reuven? What good does it do? Right? Okay, so it helps society because it creates a what's it called? It's setting an example. What do you call it? It sets a precedent for what happens if you kill people. So hopefully you'll be discouraged. You won't go around murdering people. But the what do you call it? The number one is it helps society. Number two, it becomes an atonement for the murderer himself. The punishment is to a certain level for any time a person is punished, an atonement for the person itself. But number three, it also brings a certain satisfaction to the soul of the one who was murdered. When justice is carried out, the soul of the person who's murdered is, it says when Cain killed Hevel, it says, Kol demei achecha tzoakim alei me'adama. Your brother's blood is crying out to me from the earth. That means the blood of the deceased is crying for justice. There was an injustice. Again, we're talking about levels that we can't possibly comprehend. But when Jewish people are murdered by anti-Semites, when those anti-Semites get punished, and they all do in the end, and if they don't get it in this world, they get it in the next world, that brings a certain satisfaction to the soul of the ones who were wrong. Here, God wants everybody to know that God says, well, God could say take revenge, because I want you to know that nothing in the world's not haphazard, random, and free. It's not a world where you get to do whatever you want, live and let live. No, it doesn't work that way. You caused the Jewish people to sin. There's accountability. And the Torah wants to drive home the point of accountability. God says, listen, they messed you over. The Midianites they caused 24,000 Jews to die because they caused you to sin. Now you're going to have to go and you're going to have to show that A, they don't get away with it, and B, there's accountability in this world. And you're going to have to kill these Midianites, and even more. The sin was drawing a little too close to the Midianites, right? Very close, a little too close, right? Creating intimacy with the Midianites. So the opposite of that is to go and kill them now. And you're going to have to go and show that we are completely anti-Midianites. Right? That's the basic idea over here, number one. Number two, if you take a look, there's a very, very interesting Rashi over here, and which opens up a remarkable idea. I want you all to hear it. It's the left column of Rashi on 902, 4 lines from the bottom. Rashi says, I want you to take revenge from the Midianites. And then Rashi says, V'lo me'esa Moavim, not the Moabites. The Midianites, not the Moabites. 902, left column, 902, left column of Rashi, 3 lines from the bottom. Take revenge from the Midianites, v'lo me'esa Moavim, not the Moabites. Why? Sha'Moavim nichnasu l'davar machmas yira. The Moabites got involved because they were afraid. King Balak was afraid that the Jewish people were going to overrun his land. Shehoyu yireim mehem shiyu sholim osam. They were afraid the Jewish people are going to despoil them. Shelo nemar ela ve'al tiskar b'milchama. Aval Midianim nisabru al riv lo lohem. The Midianites got involved in a fight that wasn't their fight. The Midianites got involved, wasn't it? What are you getting involved for? It had nothing to do with you. You weren't threatening Midian. Yeah, what's wrong, Miguel?
I was just going to ask, if with the Moabites, or no, the Midianites, they're going to take the women that weren't involved in the...
Let's wait till we get there. Let's just give a few minutes, okay? Trust me. I mean, I don't say that you should trust me, and people have trusted me, and they're now in prison. But I would, what do you call it? So I'm only suggesting trust me. You know.
I trust you, Rabbi.
Yeah. See, I'll recommend a good parole officer, really. They says now that's the first. The Midianites got involved in a fight that wasn't theirs. The Moabites, it was a defense. You can't. They're also no tzaddikim, but we at least understand where they're coming from. Number one. Then the Torah said, look at the next statement of Rashi. Davar acher, miptei shtei predos tovos sheyesh li lahotzi mehem. There are two. A preda is a little birds that I'm going to bring out of the nation of Moab. Rus ha-Moavia v'Naama ha-Amonis. Naama ha-Amonis marries Shlomo HaMelech. They're going to be two righteous women that come from Moab, and therefore we're going to spare the Moabites. We're not going to kill the Moabites. Now that begs a question. That means that the entire nation of Moab is going to be spared. That means theoretically they deserve a little bit of a patch too. But we're not going to do it because down the line there are going to be 2 women from the nation of Moab who are going to be righteous converts, and they're going to marry the Jewish people. One of them is going to be Ruth, and one is going to be Naama, and therefore we're going to leave the entire Moabite nation alone. That's what Rashi brings down from the Medrash. So there's an interesting concept, and the concept is the Rambam. I don't remember where he writes it. It might be in the introduction to the Mishnayos. It's not in the Yad HaChazaka. I forgot where the Rambam writes this. The Rambam says there is a righteous tzaddik who's walking along, and all of a sudden there's a thunderstorm. A righteous tzaddik is walking along, the rain starts coming down, and he needs to get shielded from a rain. And he sees nearby there's a palace. So he goes over to the outside walls of this palace, and he's shielded from the rain by the walls of this palace. He gets protection from the elements by standing against the walls of this palace. So the Rambam says it could very well be that this palace has been standing for 500 years with all the intrigue that's been going on in the palace, and all of the partying, and all the beheadings, and all the other things that go on in ancient palaces, and all the entire purpose of everything that's happened in that palace and its entire building and existence was so that one tzaddik one time will be protected from the rain. That's what the Rambam says. You could have a situation in life where it looks like there's an entire, what do you call it? You know, you could have an entire, I'm only using an example. I'm not saying this is a reason. I'm not a Navi. I'm not a prophet yet. But there's a what do you call it? I'm only giving you an example of what could be. I don't know that it is. I don't say Anna Kaplan said it is. I didn't say it is. I'm just saying give you as a string. You could have an entire, a man spends his life becoming a multi-billionaire, makes a whole lot of noise, opens casinos and golf courses, eventually gets popular enough and insults enough people to get elected president. And all for what reason? In order that he should pardon one Jew who's had an unfair sentence against him, Mr. Rabashkin.
Who? The guy in Iowa.
The guy in Iowa who was sentenced by the anti-Semitic judge to 24 years in prison for some sort of shtick, and he got out after 7 years because Donald Trump pardoned him. Now, I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that the entire existence of that man and everything that he did in order to get popular enough to become, or unpopular, to become president, and everything, it could all be, that's how Kodesh Baruch Hu runs the world. We don't have any idea. That just shows you how clueless we are. It could all be, all for one purpose. So the commentaries point out over here, you have a situation, an entire nation of Moab, and they're all going to be spared because it could be that the entire existence of the Moabite nation, starting from Lot and his daughters in the cave, the entire existence is in order that one woman should come out from Moab named Bruce. And therefore God says you're going to spare the Moabites. You're not going to start with the Midianites. The Midianites you're going to go to war with, and not the Moabites. And that's a concept. And therefore we have no idea. It could be that the light rail in Jerusalem, the entire purpose of the light rail, the entire existence with 12 years of building and everything else is so that one day I'll get on the light rail and drive over to where they sell the lottery tickets and buy that big winner. Thank you very much. Thank you. He said amen. Yeah. It could be. Now, I don't say that I would bet on it, but it could be, and we never know. You never know all the noise and all the hoopla and all the rah-rah, you don't know what it's for. You have no idea. And that's why you find that the entire war, and we have a precedent, the first world war in history was where, gentlemen?
Europe?
No.
Russia.
First World War. First World War. America?
Egyptians.
Who?
Iraqis and Egyptians.
Getting closer.
The Ottoman.
Abraham and the 5 kings.
That's right. You had the 5 kings versus the 4 kings that got. And what was the whole purpose of an entire world war? Was only so that Abraham would go in and he would chase Lot. He would go to rescue Lot. So they could capture Lot. The whole war was they could capture Lot, and then Avraham Avinu could then go in and rescue Lot. That was the entire purpose of the entire, hold all the questions. That was the entire purpose of the entire world war. Is that a remarkable thing? That means when things are happening around us, we have no idea. And not only that, by the way, the whole purpose of the First World War and the Second World, what was it all about? The Jews. Only the Jews. At the end of the day, it was all because of the Jews. You got all these people, it's all about the Jews. So here, the Torah says they're going to go to war. Now, when they go to war over here, the first thing this is going to be the last thing that Moshe Rabbeinu does. And why are they going to war with Midian, and why is it the last thing Moshe Rabbeinu does? Because the Midianites got them involved in 2 things, which were idol worship, Baal Peor, remember the women got them to bow, and immorality. So before Moshe Rabbeinu dies, there's going to be one more war, his last act for the Jewish people, which is going to be to secure these 2 fundamentals of Judaism, that we are anti-immorality and we are anti-idol worship. And therefore, it's going to be a war where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, look at the words of the pasuk. He says to Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to go to war, and then you're going to die. Now, if you're a Moshe Rabbeinu, if you found out that this is your last thing you're going to do, I say to you, okay, I want you to go to the lunchroom, and after you eat lunch, you're going to die. Right? And it's 1 o'clock. Now it's 1 o'clock. Now what do you think you would do?
I'll take a nap.
Yeah, I'll take a nap. Yeah, I think I may be eating a late lunch this afternoon. I'll eat late before I become the late. So I'm going to kind of, maybe I'll I'll try walking backwards or something. I'm gonna delay it. I'm
Did you put it to lunch,
I'm gonna try to delay it as long as possible. Look what Moshe Rabbeinu says. Yeah, if the lunch doesn't kill you. But Yadaber Moshe El Ha'am Lemor. So Moshe immediately turns and speaks to the people. Immediately, I want you to get people. Moshe Rabbeinu does not hesitate. Hashem said to do it. Moshe Rabbeinu's life, as soon as this is over, he's ready to die. Moshe Rabbeinu, instead of dragging his feet, instead of draying, Moshe Rabbeinu says, okay, let's go. And then they take like this. Now I want you to follow carefully. Michael, did that answer your question? No. Go ahead. What's the question?
I wanted to ask, wouldn't it have made more sense to still kill the men in that tribe and then leave the women because they were going to take
You can't. I can't ask. Why did they do it one way versus another way? This is what the Torah says to do. We can only ask based on what it says to do. Because I can make a better idea. We could tie them all up and chop their legs up. There are a million and one things. You can't. Those kind of questions are endless in Torah. Why did Hashem say to do this and he didn't say to do this? Why did he say to do this? Say to do this? There has to be a good reason to do the other. I think that I told you once that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and Antoninus, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. So he once asked Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, why does the sun rise in the east and set in the west? So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi gave the obvious answer. He said, well, if it rose in the west and set in the east, you ask me, why does it rise in the west and set in the east? So he said, that's not what I meant. I meant, why doesn't it go halfway and come back? Why doesn't it go halfway, acknowledge the Creator, and go back? It was a philosophical debate, but the answer, Rabbi Yehuda, in order to suggest something else, you have to have a better why should it be that way as opposed to that way? You have to, it's not just a curiosity. It has to have a reason why. This is what Hashem said to do. This is the most logical thing to do. Okay. Now, there are 1,000 in each tribe. Elef lamata, l'chol Mattos Yisrael tishluchu latzova. You take 1,000 men for each tribe. And I told you the word mata means a staff. And that's the name of a tribe, is a mata. And a tribe is also called a shevet. A shevet is also a type of a shevet is really a rod that you hit people with. So each tribe, it's called either a staff or a rod, both which are made out of what? Wood, which means they grow from a tree. Which means that each tribe is a branch, like a rod. Each tribe is called, there's no accident that they're called a mata or a shevet, because each tribe represents a branch from the tree of the Jewish people. So he says you're going to send 1,000 men from each tribe. Now, if you send 1,000 men from each tribe, how much are you going to get? 12,000 against an entire nation of Midian. And we're going to see that based on the calculation of how many women they took as captives, if you count parallel amount of men and parallel amount of, of children, and so you're talking about a nation of well over 1.5 million or 2 million people. So you're sending out 12,000 people, 12,000 men to go to war, because like always, Kodesh Baruch Hu wants to show that it is not your strength. You have to do the minimum to reduce the miracle, to make it look like you're putting in a human initiative. But at the end of the day, it's anyway going to be a miracle. It's a miraculous war. We're going to find out later that none of the men die. Imagine going to war. It's not like nowadays where you fight war, sit in a back room, hit a few computer keys, take out a few cities. It's a relatively safe job. You don't even have to wear any armor. You just sit in a back room with a computer, or you fly a sophisticated airplane and you shoot down missiles, and there's it's not personal. In those days, you went to war with clubs and with bows and arrows and with with all sorts of, you're likely to get a cut of some sort. You're likely to get, something's likely to happen. I remember my brother and I used to fight with tinker toys, to make a weapon. So, so he always took like a sword. I just made a club. I just felt that the better chance is just start clubbing each other. So you're bound to get something. With it, a sword, you got to be pretty accurate. Just start clubbing the guy. So in the ancient world, you got guys you're out there chopping themselves to pieces. This is even in the Civil War. They had bayonets still. Even in World War I, they had bayonets. Hey, listen, you could get hurt. Here, war was, it was very personal. So you got 12,000 men go out to war, and not one of them dies. Not one Jewish fighter. The Midianites defended themselves. They were fighting a war. They're shooting arrows all over the place. Bound to hit somebody. The answer is that it's all done al pines. It's all a miracle. They're going out to war. It's all a miracle. But you have to show the physical effort. However, take a look. We're going to read 2 more psukim now. Vayimasu me'alfei Yisrael elef lamata shtemos or elef chalutzei tzava. There are 12,000 men that are going to go off. Now, you have a problem over here because there's a whole discussion on whether Shevet Levi went or not. Rashi says Shevet Levi also went. So it comes out to 13,000. But then you take away the tribe of Ephraim, according to some, so it comes out to 12,000. Either way, the Medrash says that there were not 12,000, there were 36,000. 12,000 were the warriors. 12,000 were the equipment managers. There's another 12,000. What did they do? Close? They davened. They were the daveners. 12,000 daveners, but they didn't sit in the base medrash and daven. They went out to the battlefront and davened.
Oh.
Yeah, they went out to the battlefront and davened. So you got 36,000 Jews who are fighting the war. 12,000 are actively fighting. 12,000 are the equipment guys, and 12,000 are daveners, and the daveners are out at the battlefront. Now, if take a look at Pasuk Hey. Va'imasu me'alfei, so take a look at Rashi. Oh, no, Rashi doesn't bring it down. The Medrash brings it down. The Medrash says that there were 12,000 who went out to the battlefront. Okay. Now, the question is, why do they have to be at the battlefront? Why do the 12,000 have to be at the battlefront when they're davening? Can you imagine the fights going on? You know, and all of a sudden someone gives a clap. No! Baruch Baruch everybody's got to stop for Baruch. Amen, Yehei, Shmei, Rabbi, you know, one of the Midianites comes over, you start fighting. Shema Yisrael. So and they got to be there. They're out at the battle in full view of everybody. In full view of everybody. The possibilities here are limitless. They're in full view of everybody. They can imagine the shock. When they had the Siyum HaShas. Where's it called? MetLife Stadium.
Yeah.
Okay, you got 100,000 people there, and there were not some non-Jewish security people. A lot of non-Jews there, and all of a sudden there's a whole lot of noise. And all of a sudden, the Chazan starts Ma'ariv, and they got 100,000 people arguing, and all of a sudden there's a dead silence in the whole stadium. Can you imagine? Nobody's making a peep. And these guys are looking around like, what the heck's just happened? And then you hear, Baruch Hu es Hashem, and 100,000 people, Baruch Hu es Hashem, and it's all in unison. And then when they're getting used to the noise, all of a sudden it gets real quiet right before Shema. Shema! Imagine the look on their faces when they had and they had, by the way, the first Siyum HaShas was at Madison Square Garden. So they had there was a non-Jewish cop, and he goes over to a friend of his and says, darn it, I lost my wallet. He says, don't worry, with this crowd, you're going to get it back. And sure enough, he got his wallet back. Now, could you imagine, those of you who have ever been in New York and Madison Square Garden, the chances of getting your wallet back, the chances of leaving with your own wallet, what are the chances? It's a completely different, what do you call it? I had a friend, he told me, I don't know if it happened to him or it happened to a friend of mine, it happened to a friend of a friend, guy's in New York for about 20 minutes, the next thing you know, he's missing his wallet, and he goes up to a cop, he says, hey, somebody picked my pocket. The cop looks, welcome to New York. Bruchim aboy, shalom aleichem. So here you got 12,000 people who are all that. Now, so why is that? So there are three different reasons. Reason number one is the people who are fighting need to be reminded that it's not about you. You're fighting and you're stabbing people and you're killing people. How do you remember that it's not you who's doing it? Because you're looking at 12,000 people over there, that big Midian over there, and that's a reminder that what you're doing is with divine assistance. Because it's easy when you go to war to start becoming full of yourself, especially when you're just killing a lot of people, and you take a look and realize that it's not about me. What about the daveners themselves? Well, if you've ever davened, I'll just give you one unfortunate example. If you've ever davened for somebody who's not well, you daven differently. If you've gone to visit him in the hospital, then you go back home, or in the hospital itself, then you daven differently. To hear about the guy, he's in the hospital in a lot of pain. So you daven that he shouldn't be in pain. Then you go to the hospital to visit him, and you see the guy's in serious pain. Right? Well, then you see up front, that brings it creates a different type of davening. So they talk about bands. The band plays to the dancers, they say. You know, when the band is playing, if they're the dancers, the band gets pumped up by seeing the dancers. The daveners daven when they see the war going on. Then it brings out, it's a different type of davening. It's a different type of davening. When you're watching them actually fighting, that's a different type of davening when you're in a back room. And you see what's happening, and it creates a different type of davening. What's remarkable here is that they're told by God to go to war, and you're going to be successful in the war. You're told by God, you're going to be successful. Even then, you still have to daven. You have to daven, nobody should get killed. You can be successful nationally, but who says everybody's going to survive? And even if you were promised you should still daven. And it's a life lesson. Sometimes in life, a person's on a roll. Sometimes, you made an investment, another investment, and things are going well, and you're doing, you're starting to click, you're in a zone, and you're moving. You got to daven then too. Sometimes a person davens, someone's not well, and he davens that he should be cured, and next thing you know, he's cured. Well, you got to keep davening now that you should stay healthy. That's what the Torah is telling you. You're promised they're going to win. So what do you need the daveners for? You need the daveners in order to reminder that you always daven. You daven when things are not going well. You daven when things are going well. And by the way, sometimes that's a more potent davening. There's a more potent davening when you daven that things should continue going well. When a person's in trouble, so obviously you're going to daven. Obviously you're going to. That's almost physician-assisted davening. Yeah, because you're in trouble, so you need to say, you're getting a lift. Of course he's going to know. What else are you going to do? When things are going well, it's very easy for a person to forget that it's not about him. And you daven there and you acknowledge that God is helping you even when you've got the ability and the talent and you're successful and you're making money and you're still davening, then that's a different type of davening. Now, more than that, who went to war for the Jewish people? Who went to war for the Jewish people? Pinchas is he leads them. In all wars, who went to war for the Jewish people? Okay, that's true. Okay, you guys have gotten religious quick. That's great. Okay, I'll be passing out streimels at the end of the class. Which types of men went to war? Oh, somebody said it? The tzaddikim, the righteous, the biggest tzaddikim went to war. The man at the battlefront, he would make announcements about who can step out of line. Anybody who recently planted a vineyard and has never enjoyed, within 1 year of planting a vineyard, you get to go home and enjoy your vineyard. And anybody who built a house and has not lived in the house, anybody who's recently gotten married and you haven't been married for a year, you get to go home because you got enough of a battle at home. You don't have to go out there. Anybody who's you get to go. Yeah. Also, then he says, and anybody who's afraid. Isha yore v'rach alevav, a person who's afraid and he's literally wimpy. But what's he really afraid of? He's afraid of his averas. He's afraid that he may have done averas which will prosecute him while he's up at the battlefront. So who could possibly say, I think about 7 years ago I spoke Lashon Hara. Who could possibly say that they're perfectly, so it was only the perfectly righteous who went to war. And the Medrash says, you know what would constitute a reason not to go to war? It says, even there are two versions of the Medrash. There's one version that says, if you were putting on your tefillin, you put on your hand tefillin, and then you spoke between the hand tefillin and the head tefillin, which you're not allowed to do. According to Allah, you spoke, you don't go to war.
So the original
You messed up. You don't go to war. You spoke. You spoke, you don't go to war. Right? There's another version of Medrash. The other version is you put on your head tefillin before your hand tefillin. Now, first of all, I saw that Medrash. I'm wondering myself, I understand that you put on your tefillin and then you said something. That happens. You slipped. You slipped, something came out. But why in the world would a person ever put his head tefillin on before his hand tefillin? Why could that happen? I understand that, I was putting on my tefillin and somebody walked in and said, hey, Kaplan. Oh, Shalom Aleichem. Okay, got to make another bracha, and I got to put on my head. That I could understand happening. But I don't think I've ever put my head tefillin on before my hand tefillin. I don't think that's ever happened to me. What's that?
Aren't you supposed to pull the head tefillin out of the bag first?
You're supposed to, no, you put them back in and you take out the hand tefillin. You're supposed to put them in a way where you don't touch the head tefillin first. But even that, I don't remember ever putting on my head tefillin. Why would you put your head tefillin on before your hand tefillin? That's a pretty big mess up. Why would that happen? Lack of focus. Okay, so if a guy says, "Well, yeah, boy, I was really tired last night. I had a couple of benders, and here he's already, he's already putting on his head filling because he's a little, And worse is if you start taking your hand filling and putting on your head, It's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that's all wrong. That's all. Why would you do it? I think. What do you say, Mayor?
I mean, I was thinking, in war, maybe you will see so much that this person might be, his eyes are stronger than his emunah and his.
Okay, you're taking it a little too deep. Yeah, you got a little too deep. I think a guy who's out at the battlefront, and a guy's putting on it, so that means you're rattled. It means you're like you say, you lost focus. Why? You're confused, and especially when you're going to war, that shows a certain nervousness. If you're that nervous that you're putting on your head filling before you head, something's gotten to you, you go to war for the Jewish people. There's no room for nervousness. That's why you're nervous. That's already a disqualification. You can't go to war. You're not on the level of faith to go to the war. We need people who are sinless and people who have the perfect level of faith. That's why. What's the test, by the way? The test of, what's the difference in bitachon? The test of bitachon, what they call bitachon, trust in God. What is the acid test that shows whether or not you have bitachon in God? What's according to the duties of the heart, the chovos halavovos, what is the determining factor of whether you have true bitachon?
If you're calm or not.
Yes, menuchas hadefesh of the botech. If you're on your way to your own wedding and you get caught in a traffic jam and you believe it's all for the best, so why are you getting all tzahitzt? Why are you getting all nervous? You're on your way to a job interview and you really want this job. And there's traffic and there's an 18-wheeler broke down right across the highway. Why are you getting all tzahitzt? You believe that it's all for the best or not? You didn't do anything foolish. You made all rational decisions. You took the correct route, and somehow you're still not getting there. You trust in God or you don't trust in God. Listen, you were talking about way high levels over here. You really trust in God? If you really trust in God, then you should. If it's all for the best, it's no different than a dentist drilling you. I go to the dentist. I'm not happy about it, but I'm calm because I know that he needs to do it, provided he's getting the right tooth. I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy to pay. I'm not happy about any of it. But I realize it's all for the best. It needs to be done. I trust the dentist. You trust God or not? You don't trust God. God's doing a little bit of a root canal over here, right? I can't be upset. I'm not upset with the dentist when he does the root canal. I'm upset about the pain. I'm not happy about it. Unless he gives me the laughing gas, in which case, I tell him to keep on going. But what do you call it? The root canal? It's a root canal. I'm not nervous about it. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu does a little bit of a root canal for a person, and if you believe it's for the best, so there's no reason to be nervous. You're going out to war. You really believe in God. You really trust in God when you go out to war. Then it should be no different. It should be no different than a walk on the beach. That's the ultimate level of bitachon. Okay, now take a look at. They come back from the war. Somebody had a question. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask. So, if somebody does think that he's done averos, but he has bitachon, then Hashem will still protect him. Will protect him in war.
The Mishnah says that if he's done averos, you can't rely on that. You can't rely on that. The averos are a prosecutor, and it turns out that only the biggest tzaddikim went to war for the Jewish people. You want to take your chances? You can take your chances, but hayore v'rach haleva means you're nervous about it. You're nervous about it. Okay, let's go on. Now, take a look at, they go off to war, and they kill everybody, and then if you take a look in Pasuk Ches, there's an interesting medrash here. V'es malchei Midian hargu al chalaleim. They killed the kings of Midian along with their, how does he translate chalaleim?
Slain ones.
Along with their slain ones. The chalaleim usually really means corpses. They killed the kings. They killed the kings. Everybody see that on 904, Pasuk Ches. They killed the kings of Midian al chalaleim, along with the other victims. And the Medrash says that Bilam was a sorcerer and he managed to get the kings up in the air. He was flying around the air and the kings of Midian were flying around in the air. And Pinchas came and Pinchas took God's name and he flashed it, and that kind of knocked them out of the air. by flashing Hashem's name from the tzitz. He had the Kohen Gadol's, the golden tassel, and he flashed it at them. So when their commentators say, Hargu al-Chal Aleihim, that when the kings fell, they fell onto the other corpses. Yes, al-Chal Aleihim, then he names them. Es Evi ves Rekem ves Sur ves Chur ves Reva Chameshes Malchei Midian, the 5 kings of Midian. Ves Bilam ben Beor Hargu becharev. Then they killed Bilam too. Bilam was also flying around, and Bilam was flying around, and they managed to what do you call him down? What's that sport called in Harry Potter? Quidditch, yeah, and they flashed to what he called, and then they knocks them out of the sky type of thing. So that has nothing to do with this. Bilam was what he called. Bilam is a sorcerer, and Pinchas goes after him, and Pinchas takes him down. He gets to what he called, gets the snitch, and what he called, and down comes Pinchas, down comes Bilam. Now there is a medrash that says that they performed the Gemara. It's not a medrash. The Gemara says they performed all 4 forms of execution on Bilam at one time. Imagine the Gemara says, and there's a whole discussion among the Rishonim exactly how they did it. Yeah, that means they hit him with a stone, but not enough to kill him. Plus they started strangling him, but not enough to kill him. Plus they they put a hot lead in his mouth, but not enough that he didn't have to swallow it. Because normally when you kill people with the hot lead, they have to swallow it. And they then chopped his head off. So they did all 4 things to Bilam at once. They all four, which is just a reminder to us guys, be good, right? And so they did. That's what the Medrash says. Okay. Then they take, and this starts the trouble. Vayishbu b'nei Yisrael es neshei Midian u'estan. They take the women of Midian and their children. Here comes the trouble, right? Again, it's always what's the expression in French? Is it chargé la femme? How do you say it in French?
What are you trying to say?
It's all because of the woman. There's always look for the woman. Look. How do you say it? Yeah, and that's right. Look for whenever there's trouble. There's a French saying: whenever there's trouble, look for the woman. Right? There's always some woman involved somewhere. So he says. So now here, that's why it's a French expression, right? So he says, "Vayishbu b'nei Yisrael es neshei Midian v'estapon." They capture the women. V'es kol behemta v'es kol mikdam v'es kol chelam bazaza. They take all the booty, and then they come back. Now, when Moshe Rabbeinu sees this. Skip to the bottom of the page. Vayetzu Moshe ve'Elazar HaKohen v'chol nesiei ha'eda likrosam al michutz lamachana. Moshe and the princes, they go out to greet them. 2 lines from the bottom. Vayiktzov Moshe al pekudei hechoyel. Moshe gets angry. Sorry alofim v'sorry ameos habay mitzvah milchama. Now, by the way, the word vayiktzov is related to the Hebrew word ketzef. You know what ketzef is in modern Hebrew, at least? Close. Foam. What does that tell you? If Moshe's anger is described as foam, what does that tell you?
It's like really
That would be called af. Good. Af is when a person gets angry, right? They start their nose. They're breathing through the nose. That's called af. That's why it's called nose. Af, because they start breathing through their nose, right? Like a bull, like the bull. What do you go? The bull's got. That's af. Why is it called vayiktzov, which is foam? Huh?
Expanding anger?
It's good. You guys are both. You're good, but you're going in the wrong direction.
But it's controlled.
What?
It's controlled.
What makes you think it's controlled? Not only is controlled,
It dissipates quickly.
it dissipates quickly. Not only dissipates quickly, it's not even there.
empty on the inside.
It's not even correct. It's not real. It's not real. That means
On the outside,
there are
but
certain
inside-
times in life. Where you have to show anger. Specifically, a father sometimes has to show anger to his kids. Yet the halacha is you're not allowed to be angry inside. Moshe Rabbeinu, according to one of the commentaries, he's only showing anger over here. It's absolutely and utterly controlled anger. That's a very, very difficult thing in life. To yell at your kids and not get angry. I know because my daughter, the next door neighbor, my grandsons, yesterday or 2 days ago, my 2 grandsons hurled water balloons into the neighbor's house.
Oh boy.
So the lady who's good friends with my daughter, the lady came over to my daughter's house and she looked at my grandchildren. She said, "Don't throw water balloons in my house." Then she turned to my daughter and said, "I'm not really angry. I'm not really angry." Right? Which is how you're supposed to do it. Now, what she doesn't know is that I'm going to give each one of them about 10 shekels for doing it. Like, yeah, boys, good going, guys. Yeah, I just got to make sure my wife doesn't find out. She'll absolutely shoot me. But I'm proud. Hey, listen, the kids they're learning at a young age. I'm proud of the aim. They put it right through the window. That's not bad.
They got it inside?
They got into the house. Yeah. No, my only question is if they nailed somebody. But they actually they got it through the house. That's why she came in and she said, guys, no water balloons in the house, because they were outside. They were throwing it at her grandchildren, which is certainly a mitzvah. But then when they got into the house, they got a couple into the house. So that made me proud. So the what do you call it? So so Moshe get the absolute Yiddish nachash, right? I'm so proud. Yeah. So it says Vayiksav Moshe al Pikudei Echal So Moshe gets angry at them. Now, according to some, he was genuinely angry. Why? Vayomer Aleim Moshe Achayisem Kol Nekevi. He kept the women alive. What happened to you guys? You went to war and you kept the women alive? What was this whole war about? You didn't understand? I got to spell it out for you exactly why you're going to war? Hein hayu livnei Yisrael bidvar Bilam. Limsor mal ba'Hashem al dvar pa'or. They were the ones who caused the downfall of the Jewish people. You kept the women alive. And Raj says, Hein Haina. They pointed to individual, and that's the woman that he sinned with. That's the woman that Ploni sinned with. They actually knew the women. They knew the women. The fraternity was right near the sorority. They knew exactly which the women were, what it was. Oh, that's one. Yeah, that's the one in the punch bowl. That's the one. Yeah. So Moshe's upset. Ve'ata hirgu kol zochar batov kol isha yadas isha. Now you're going to have to go and execute them. Okay, execute the males, execute the females. And the Jewish people, you see that it sounds like they're a bunch of let's go killing people. You see that they didn't want to kill. And this is only a command from Hashem. Hashem is saying, you should have been executing them. That was the whole point of this war. Okay, we'll see tomorrow how this plays out.